everybody, it's Jane here on a Saturday night. Not necessarily a tutorial, although I'm going to be showing you something that I'm doing. It's interesting. let me put that down. I've had beginners saying, oh, thank you so much for doing something very simple. I'm a beginner. And so I'm doing my block party, which is really for beginners. But then I've had more confident advanced seamstresses and quilters say, are you just doing stuff for beginners? Like, I'm not a beginner. Can you do something like other stuff? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I just do what I do. So, and as you know, pretty much I'm gearing my thing towards beginners, but this is not a beginner project. This is what I'm doing for myself. I am making what's called a Lone Star Quilt. And if you look up online on Pinterest or anything, if you know what a Lone Star Quilt is, you'll see that it's not real easy. It looks like it has diamond shapes, and the conventional way is to cut diamonds and 50, 60, 80 million degrees rulers you need to cut these things, and you have to be precise, and there's templates, and it's a hard quilt to make, a Lone Star Quilt. There's a company that came up with, it's called quiltsmart.com. This is about my fourth Lone Star Quilt I've made. It's so easy. It takes an awfully lot of organization. You have to cut it's made with rectangles. You have to cut your rectangles absolutely precise. Then they have what's called, it's an iron-on interfacing. It's printed. It's funky, weird, crazy. You pin on this side, you turn it around, you stitch on this side, dot to dot. And for either an advanced seamstress or an advanced quilter or a beginner, you have to do it exactly the same way, or else it messes up. And this is how it turns out. I'm doing an 8 star 56-inch wide Lone Star. So my configuration was each piece, each star point is a different colorway of the rainbow. So I'm doing warm colors and I'm doing cool colors. And then I'll have them going in 8 points around my 56-inch star, which then I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I'll make an applique, or probably not. I'll probably put some setting blocks in, but you might follow along in the process, because I can't start, this isn't a start to finish quilt at all. So what I'm doing today, this little tutorial or whatever it is, I'm showing you what I'm doing tonight on a Saturday night. Cold, cold, cold. Cold, it's like 4 degrees out here in Pennsylvania. Unbelievably cold. So it's a great time to sew. I'm sewing on my interfacing. This one I'm doing my green. I'm doing a green colorway, and then I'll be adding a is it red? As all of these have what I've done is I've gone to my color wheel, and I find the complementary color. So the purples and the yellows, the reds and the greens, the blues and the oranges. So right around my thing. Now, I can't tell you how much fabric to buy if you're going to do it, because you can make this scrappy with tons of scraps. 2.5 inch by 5.5 inch scraps all the way around the whole thing. You can make it scrappy, you could make it rainbow, you can make it black, white, and a color, or graduated colors of one color. You can make it like each one the same all the way around to make like a sunburst. Pinterest has a million images if you need colorway suggestions. I'm doing it this way. I started out with a few jelly rolls and it didn't work out. I actually have that on film. I'm not going to show it to you, because you know how I go. I've started my process and I'm opening up these jelly rolls. I messed that up so bad. And then I thought, no, I'm going to just do one colorway, purple, on each star. So I'll have 8 different colorways with their complementary color. So that's what I'm doing on my Saturday night. Not a tutorial. It's going to follow this. Excuse my appearance. I look a mess. We did go out. I've been in the house for a while. It was the coldest day of the year. I said to my husband and my sons, I want to go out to eat. They've been out all week. I'm like, I haven't. Can we go out somewhere? So we just went around the corner to a little restaurant. It was nice. I had a Reuben. I like Reubens with extra Thousand Island dressing. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, Saturday night. I'm sewing. Maybe you guys are. What time is it? It's 7:45. By the time I get this up, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm doing on my Saturday night. I'm working on my Lone Star quilt. My Lone Star. Quiltsmart.com. Unbelievable. Tons of different printed interfacings, and the directions are crazy hard. Seriously, they're like, I'm pretty clever. It took me about half an hour to figure it out. And the way I've actually explained it, I'm very proud to say, is like really elementary, and you can figure it out the way I've tried to explain it, hopefully. Let me know if you think it was made a lot of sense. I'm only a quarter way through it. So anyway, this will probably be ongoing until I finish the quilt, whenever I do. Anyway, I thought you'd like to see what I was doing. So thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for watching me. See you later. Bye. As I said in my introduction, not necessarily a tutorial, except if you wanted to, you could embark on making one of these. But just my process of what I'm doing on my Saturday night. What I have done, I want to just share with you what I'm doing tonight. Color wheel at the ready. This is what I've purchased. I've made quite a few of these before, and this is how it comes. This is a printed interfacing, okay, and it's from quiltsmart.com. And this interfacing, which consists of 8 star pieces, 8 stars, units, to make a Lone Star Quilt. If you want to look that up on Pinterest, a Lone Star Quilt. Looks like this, and it looks very complicated with tons of diamond shapes in it. This interfacing, which comes in a nice tidy little package, the interfacing, the instructions in the Ziploc bag, and then sort of a setting page that perhaps you could actually color in your colorways. And here's your fabric choices. Now, I've made this a couple times, and every time I make it, I refer to these instructions. Man alive, they're not easy. They're not easy at all to follow. So I've done it, and then once I get going, it's been quite easy, but really it's not very well explained, I don't think. So with all due respect to Quilt Smart, I've actually spent the last hour or so really trying to break it down for a beginner. This can be a beginner quilt, believe it or not. Shocking, shocking, shocking. You need to really pay attention to what you're doing. And the first thing what we're going to do is fabric selection. And again, unless you have, maybe you can have some really nice crayons or whatever. It always sort of turns out different for me because of this funky star. We're just making one. There's 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're making 8 individual pieces of our star at one time. Now, I had the idea of doing a rainbow, and with my color wheel on hand, which I love, I have actually made today, fairly quickly, I've made 3 of my, let me see if that's in frame, yeah, 3 of my color, of my star, according to my color wheel. My reds go to my greens, reds down to my green accent here. And then I chose my purple, and then on my color wheel, my purples go down to my yellows, So this is, and then I ended up with a white inside star. Is that, yeah, you can see that. And then I've pulled my blues. My stars coming to life here. I pulled my blues, and my blues are coming down to oranges. So here's my blues coming into my oranges. Now, they have said on this, you can do any configuration. You can do it. You can do it a reproduction with all like tans and browns and prints. You can do blacks and whites and grays with maybe a pop of red. Whatever your color configuration is. They suggest 6 fabrics that you come, so that you've come here. You're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you sort of reverse it, as it were. I actually did 11 on each, 11 different fabrics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The only fabric that repeats itself in my star is the white star in the center. All of these are different. But if you notice, I actually tried to make all of the top units very, very dark. The darkest blue, purple, and red. And then graduating it slowly down to this here. This unit here, my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th row, all the way across is light. My 6th row is light. This is how I wanted to do it. And then my 8th row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is my contrast, is my opposite color on the color wheel. So this all the way around my 8 stars will be all of the different colors on my color wheel. So it's just a very, very bright quilt. I've chosen all my solids. These are completely solid fabrics that I'm using, which I don't usually do, but I had gotten a fabulous deal at Walmart. Don't bash Walmart. It's Waverly Walmart fabric for $2.97 a yard. And man, is it nice quality fabric. Here it is. It is a lovely quality. It is not thin. It has a beautiful hand. It washes beautifully. Walmart, $2.97. Sorry, other countries, you don't have it. So anyway, this is my beginnings of my star. And I wanted to show you now what I'm doing is I'm pulling my 4th colorway, and what I've done is I've actually pulled, I'm going to be doing greens, and we're going to be needing, as you can see, I went to my greens and I just pulled from what I had. This isn't quite a solid, that's sort of a tone on tone, so is that, but what I have to do is, remember, I have to pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 fabrics. My 9th fabric being my contrast. So I go to my greens, and my contrast across is red. So I started pulling darker, lighter, darker, a little bit darker, lighter, darker, until to this one here, my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's my light color that goes right around. So that's the rhyme and reason to my thinking. And then I have a darker before my contrast, and then another darker, so my contrast really pops. See, my orange pops between the 2 dark blue, my yellow pops between the 2 dark purples, my green pops between the reds. So now my red is going to pop between these 2 greens. So my color choices aside, let me see, yeah, my camera might click out. Color wheel's wonderful. I'm really thrilled with how the colorways are coming. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but you'll have either just seen my process or my quilt. I'm not quite sure at this point. Again, just what I'm doing on a Saturday night. So I'm going to put this aside, and then I'll show you what we do with this. This interfacing, fantastic. QuiltSmart.com. Don't hold me to it, but I think you can get this entire package. This package here, I think for $35, something like that, $40. I'm not quite sure. QuiltSmart.com. They have all sorts of printed interfacings. This is the interfacing as it comes. Now, we have 8 of these interfacings. So there, if you can see it, is my printed interfacing star piece. Now, what you're going to want to do is about 1 inch outside the printing of your one, putting this aside, you're going to start cutting. There's a smooth side, and then there's the rough side, which is the fusible side. You're going to start cutting about 1 inch away from the star. Being careful not to cut these lines. You want to save that interfacing, it's nice. And come back down here. Now, if you go on if you actually go on the website, quiltsmart.com, or you go on YouTube, this is really, 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 really tricky to do. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how what I'm going to cut from my fabrics. How you do this? It's once you get going, you get going, but you have to cut from your fabrics 2.5 by 5.5 inch rectangles. Now, the way I'm doing it, I can't give you. So again, I can't tell you how much fabric that you need, but for my configuration, for each star for each star point, I'm using 8 different fabrics, so I only need a little bit. But if you want to do this in a scrappy method, all you're going to need is however many. I don't know how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know how many are on here. 45, 50. I don't know. 30, 40. Count them up. You just have 2.5 inch by 5.5 inch rectangles. Shockingly, there's no ruler cutting, there's no diamond cutting, there's no nothing. It's rectangles. It's amazing how this is made. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go along and I'm going to cut my green and then my one red. I'm going to cut all of my 1 from here, 2 from there, 3 from there, 4 from there, 5 from there, 6 from there, 5 from there, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I end up with a white one down here. That's right. Number 11 is white. That's over there. So I'm going to just cut out my rectangles, and then I'll show you how we're going to do it. I can't express to you how very, very important it is when you're making your Lone Star to cut your pieces exactly 2.5 inches by 5.5 inches. Extremely important. It's easy, this project, but you have to be precise. And this one, you just take it steady. What I've done there from the dark all the way down to the white is I have my 11 pieces in graduating tones in the colorways that I want for my one, just for my one green portion of my Lone Star. I have my purple, my red, and my blue, and now I'm working on my green. This is how I'm going to do it. Again, your colorways will be completely different than mine, so you might want to cut all of your darks, your 8 darks on the very top, but I'm doing one thing at a time. Actually, the instructions say make one and then chain piece all the rest. I'm like, I love chain piecing, but even if they were all the same, I just would like to make one unit at a time. It's not confusing, but you have to really be on your toes. So there I've done all of my pieces. Now, the most important thing is I'm going to go over to my ironing board, and hopefully you'll be able to see how I do what I'm with the interfacing, what has to be done next. Now, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. Because I'm up and down and up and down and up and down with my ironing board. I'll do my, as you know, it's just me and my tripod, so it's going to be a bit of a pain. But I want to show you what you're dealing with here, and they don't explain this online on YouTube at all because it's incredibly confusing. But once you get it, you get it. So pay attention if you're going to do this. You have to buy it, but whatever. So we've already cut out our one piece out of our 8 interfacings, and you can see here, I don't know, it has all of these dashed lines here, and it says, and this is the right side up. This is the nubbly side. Okay, this is the nubbly side. This is an iron-on interfacing. This is the right side up. And if you can't probably see, it says sew line, row 1, sew line, and then it has all these lines and all of these arrows. But what you want to do is you want to find the part that says start. And if you have it up this way, this is backwards and upside down. So, because it's on the other side. And what you're going to do is we're not going to be working on it like this. Just get that out of your mind. The diamonds are going to appear miraculously. How we're going to work on it is you're going to take this, and here's your start. You'll find your start. Doesn't have it at the other end. It's start. You're going to turn this over. Okay? You're going to, and then you're going to put your start up here to the right-hand side, okay? You're going to be working in rows. You're not going to be working with diamonds. Forget diamond shapes. All we're doing is this piece here goes across at all times. So we're going to be concentrating on this row here. Now to start, we take our now these are solids. You would want this right side up. Bad side down. Now this is the nubbly side. This is the iron-on interfacing. Now, hopefully you can see. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can. Excuse me for doing this. See, I don't have enough light to do this. You're going. There's a dot here, and a line there, and it says start here. What you're going to do is you're going to put your first piece right side up, wrong side down, and you're going to go on that dot, and then there's like a dashed line between these two solid lines. You're just going to put that on that dot, that corner, on that dot, and then it's going to be right under the word start. Yeah. I think that's how you do. No, sorry. No, yeah, okay. Excuse that. Don't do that. I completely forgot. This is why. It's so confusing. That's right. There's two dots here. And you'll see it when I get over to my sewing machine with a better light. There's two dots, and then it says start, and a dot over there. You want to put this corner here on the second dot. Not that first one, the second dot. That's right. And then right under the word start. Okay? And you want to just press that. Just very carefully, because this is sticky. It gets easier to press because, I don't know, you're having to press on the sticky side of the interfacing. So that's just to sort of secure it. Now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to show you what we do now. Now, I've zoomed in pretty I'm doing this pretty close because you have to really see what you're doing here. So we've put our first rectangle on the second dot. Hopefully you can see that second dot and the word start right there. I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way. It's difficult. Now, over on the side, let me just see if I can show you. There are my pieces, and I'm going to grab, I have cut out two. I'm going to grab the second one. I'm going to bring that over. Let me see. Oops. Sorry. So there you go. I'm going to bring that over here. Now this is our second piece. Now at all times when you're working with this interfacing, which is the nubbly side up now, what you want to do is you want to keep this straight in front of you. This is my little tip. I don't know, they didn't do it this way. This is my tip, and this is how I've done it. I have to sort of reach around the camera here, sorry. So now, what we're going to be doing, it's like magic. It appears like magic. This is our number 2 piece. Our number 2 diamond, as it were. But forget diamonds, this is how we're going to construct this. On each of these lines, there's a little dot there. You see that dot? The manufacturer's done a little, oops, right over here, sorry. The manufacturer's done a dot right there. And what we want to do is we're going to line up the top corner of our second row, as it were. We're going to put it on that dot, right sides together. Okay? It's just matching that dot. Now hopefully, a couple times this didn't work for me, and I don't know why. What we're going to do is we're going to pin that, pushing the pin that way, and then you're going to pin it, oh, I'm not really in the frame, you're going to pin it to the interfacing like that. Okay? See if I want to be in the frame here. So now we have this piece. Our objective is to sew from this dot here to that dot there. But how we do this is we have to turn, we've secured this piece. What we do is you flip it over. You flip over the piece of interfacing. And now it's like this. Okay, now it's like this. Let me move this camera over here. Okay, this straight piece is in front of you. And you have your, it says sew line, row 1. So what you're going to do, there's a dot there. Hopefully you can see it. What you're going to do is you have your, it's like this, and you're going to just flip it on the diagonal, like that. And there's a dot. You're going to sew from that dot, very precise, that dot to that dot. I'll show you. You put your needle, make sure your thread's up, you put your needle down in that dot, very carefully. And then we're going to sew on that sew line. We're going to end right on that dot. There we go. Pull it up. Very important now to get rid of your threads. Now we have this. Now we're going to turn it back. This line's here, a piece of interfacing. It's always going across your sewing machine from this end to that end, that side. You're going to take out your pins. You're going to get rid of this thread. Now our objective, remember, was to sew from that corner to that corner. We've done that. Now, how the manufacturer has made this is we're going to flip this over, and that piece will match. There's another dot right there. See that dot on the interfacing? Our piece matches that dot. Okay? And now we're going to go, and you have to keep this square. Now we're going to go over to our ironing board, but first, before we do that, this is nice and straight between these lines. Sort of finger press it. Before we do that, we want to get rid of this bulk here. So that even if that's been fused down, it just pulls right up. So with a nice pair of scissors, you just want to cut that about 1/4 inch. And now I'm going to go over to my ironing board. Let me just see if I can do this. Sorry, because I'm setting up my ironing board all the time. I think this is good. So here I come. So hopefully I'll be in the frame. I'll see if I am. I'm going to come. Yeah, I'm going to come over to my ironing board. It's right, and it's going that way. And I'm just going to iron that. I'm going to iron that piece down, just keeping it straight. Now you can see I didn't iron all the way down there. I could, but that's where. Oops. That's where the fuse. That's where we're going to trim the next one. Okay, so you don't have to iron that. Just iron there. Now I'll just come back over. And please excuse me. I'm trying to not stop and start. Oh, what a mess. So here we are. And we've done these 2 pieces. This is right straight across. Now I'm going to grab a third, my third row, which is my next green. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to find the dot from the interfacing. Push that down, and I'm going to match this corner with that dot. Now you don't have to worry about this over here if it doesn't quite match. And the manufacturer says that. Just as long as this dot matches. And I'm going to put a pin there. And I'm going to put a pin here. And again, you'll have doing it right sides together if you have right and wrong sides. Pretty side to pretty side. This is solid, so it's just fine. So now I'm going to take this. I'm going to flip it over. Smoothing it all the while. And you can see the impression of that piece. Now it's nice and straight. Now I'm going to go whoop. I'm going to turn it. And I'm going to make sure that my needle goes down in that hole. Perfectly into that hole. Now I'm going to sew along this line. Being careful not to catch the head of that pin. And go right to that dot. Right into the dot and out. Cut my threads. Cut my threads. And the objective, remember, is corner to corner. That's not great. See, let me just see. Some of the time I'm having to unpick it. And you might have to unpick it to get it, but let me just see. So before we start trimming anything, we're going to flip this around. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay, because this will be the seam, and I'll show you that later. So here, my corner is at that dot, the second dot. There's 2 dots. You want it at the second dot. And if you've cut 5 1/2, it's going to be perfect. So you flip it around like this, and before you iron it, you're going to come along, and you're just going to trim off that much. And I'm going to go over to my ironing board, and I'm going to iron that. I'll be right there. See, it's just me and my iron and my and my tripod. It's difficult sometimes. So now come back and look. So we're working with it like this. Remember, we're working with it row by row. But if you turn it, look what we've made. A diamond. And the beginning of a diamond. But don't worry about that right now. So now what am I going to do is I'm going to go over. My first one's been done and my second one's been done. My third row's been done. Now I grab a 4th row. Oops, my second row. Yeah, that fell down. Oops. Yeah, so now I'm grabbing a piece from my 4th row. You probably want to mark that with little markers. So now I'm going to pull this up. I didn't quite fuse that down. It's good. I didn't fuse it down. So now, can you see where this dot is over on this line? Put that down, and we'll match that corner with that dot. And we'll put a pin there, and we'll put a pin over here in this bit of the interfacing over here. Now we're going to flip it around. Our objective to have sewn from corner to corner, which we have achieved. Now, make sure before you trim anything that your piece goes down to that second dot. And look, it matches the second dot. So now we can trim this. And then I'll go over to my ironing board, making sure it's nice and straight, and that's to that dot, and I'll iron that down, or press it, or whatever I do. So now you see my graduating colors of our row. So now I come over, having marked, I grab my 5th row, and I come back over, and I'll pull this back, and I'll find the dot, and I'll put my corner to that dot. And remember, our objective is to sew from here to here, but we have to pin it on this side, and then we have to flip it just to secure it to the bit of interfacing. Now we're always having it straight. Now we're flipping it over, and it's straight in front of us. This edge is straight. Now we just turn it and find that dot in our next sewing line. Dot to dot, right along the line. They've really done the work for us. Now, I don't know how long I want to keep doing this, because it takes me maybe maybe an hour to make maybe an hour and a half. So obviously I'm not gonna videotape this for an hour and a half. But I want you to get the I want you to, understand the science behind it. Now, before we trim, what do? We flip this over, straighten it up between these lines, and it matches the dot perfectly. So now, yeah, that's okay. That will be in the seam, the outside seam, so that's okay. So now, when you have a darker and a light, what I like to do is I like to pull up the dark and trim it away, being careful not to cut away the interfacing. And then trim away the light, not as far as the dark. So when we flip it, you're not going to see any dark shadow whatsoever. Now I'm going to go along, and I'm going to iron that down. I'm going to press this down onto the interfacing. Now I just want to show you the beginnings of a row of our Lone Star. Diamonds, diamonds, diamonds will be a diamond. How long did that take? 15, 20 minutes? And me explaining it to you? So now we're coming to the one that's the widest point, and what I quite liked is, I'll show you, I quite like the paler for my look. So I've cut all of my pieces. I'm going to bring them over to here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to find on my interfacing, I'm going to find the dot, and there it is. I'm going to match this corner point with my dot, secure it with a pin, and then turn the whole thing over, the correct side, the side that you can read. It's right in front of us and on our machine, and then I'm going to flip it, just turn it like that, and come right to that dot. Right to that mark, that dot. Put my needle down into the dot. Now when you pull this, you're working with this printed interfacing. It's very, very thin interfacing. You want to be you see I'm working with it very gently, because you don't want to pull it and rip it, because it will stay in either if you're making a wall hanging or a quilt. But when you're working with it, you want it to stay nice and intact. So just be very gentle with it. You can see I'm being very gentle the whole process. Gentle and precise. So I move that pin, and I move that pin. And then I'll see if this goes down, covers my seam allowance. Yep. So now I'm going to cut away. And as I said, if it's fused, it's okay. I'm going to cut away my dark, quite small. And then I'll cut away my light. So then when I flip over, no ugly shadows. Making sure this is nice and straight on the printed interfacing. And then you go iron it. Now we're done that row. You can flip it and you can see, wow, diamond, 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 diamond. Sort of, from pure rectangles. Now though, what we want to do is, I don't think I'll do this video in a few bits because it's going to be miles too long for me to show you everything. So, but what we're going to do, we're going to come to the top. Now, we want to do, forget this bit, this is going to be trimmed off, this top one. We're going to go back and we're going to go to our second row, which is, I've cut one more. We only need 2 of them. So I'm going to bring that back. I'm going to come back to my second row. And they say to iron it, but I don't at this point. There are, on this printed interfacing, I keep seeing, hopefully I'm in the frame, yeah. There are 2 dots here and an arrow. What you want to do, face up, you want to position this green, your second row, right at the corner with that second dot. The second dot. Okay? Just keep, and then what you want to do is you want to pin it over here. We'll fuse it down in a minute. Now we're going to take our third row, our third color, and it's very funny because you're like, oh no, wait, oh no, no, oh, make a mistake. This is my third color. Yeah, see? So keep checking. This is my third color here. So what you want to do, this is a bit funky when you get to the second row. Your diamond shape is down here, but what we're going to do, we're going to be sewing up here because of the way it's folded. Just bear with me. So just like we did on the first row, this is face up, this is pretty side down. If you had two sides, you're going to find a dot. There's going to be two dots. There's going to be one dot there where you've already sewn, and there's going to be one dot there. And that's the top dot is what we're going to want. This corner is going to go meet up that dot, just like we did over here. Our goal is to sew from this corner to this corner. So hopefully I've done that right. Hopefully. Now I'll put a pin here. And I'll put a pin here. And then we're going to flip it over. You can see the shadows of our piece. You can see it, it's going this way and this way, right across. And we're going to turn it on the second row of stitching. You're going to put your needle right down in that dot. You're going to sew along this line, making sure your pin head is out of the way. You're going to go right to the dot. Don't even go a hair out of over the dot. That's what's very crucial to the making of this quilt. You're going to turn it over, and you're always working with it going this way. Don't worry about the diamonds being formed. You're going to take your pins out, and we're going to flip it just down, and we're going to see that this goes right to the second dot, just because it's cut perfectly. So we're on the second row of our green. So we want to keep this white here, about 1/4 of an inch, because that's in here. It just gets flipped over, and at the very end you sew that seam, and like magic, these points up here, you see, we've sewn all of our pieces down, just rectangles, and then the interfacing allows us to sew that. So we want to keep that white in there. So I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go over to my machine, and I'm going to press this. It's very handy for this to have your iron right next to you. And if my camera wasn't on, I would be just rolling my chair over, but I'm having to do it behind my camera. So we have now we have to figure out, you can always turn it, which what do I want? We're only working on rows. Don't worry about this bit over here. We're working on rows. So now we want our row number 4. So we bring it over because this is what we want. Right. So we turn this again. You're always working with this horizontally. You're thinking, oh my, let me figure this. You're thinking, oh, my diamond's down here, but I'm sewing up here. I'm sewing up here. I'm sewing up here. Always remember that. Once you get in the groove, it really is exciting. So now remember there are 2 circles. There are 2 dots. You want the top dot, which is right there. The corner goes to that dot. So you just keep going along like this. You put a pin there and a pin in your interfacing, and then you pull it around, smooth that, go under the presser foot, turn it, and put that down, and do the dots. And what's our objective? Our objective was to have sewn from corner to corner. Sometimes it's not exact. That's about 1/8 of an inch off, but let's see how that works, because that all gets tucked into the seam, if you remember. So let's pull this down. There we go. It matches that dot very well, beautifully. And I can trim off the excess here. Keeping this nice and straight, and I'll just go over and I'll iron it. So I've ironed it. Now if you can see, this is our top one when that's cut off and trimmed. These are our first bit of our first row, our third row. Do you see? See how it's working now? See how the diamonds are forming? So I'm just going to keep going along, and then on this one I'll add my darker green that goes in this row here, which I've already used that one, so my darker green is that one. And then after that will be the red, and then the pale green, the palest green, and the white. And I'll just go along. But what we're doing is we're just going, keeping it in front of you this way. Don't turn it this way and try to figure it out. Keeping it in front this way and staggering them. You're just going to go along and figure out there's two dots. You always want the top, the upper dot. So you're always, you know, this next green, it's down here, but you sew, you find the upper dot, which is up here. And you sew. Objective. What is the objective? To go from corner to corner. So I'm going to stop that right now. I'm just going to throw this up as, I don't know if it's a tutorial. It's just something interesting that I'm doing on a Saturday night. And then I'll keep you informed of my progress. Okay, thanks for following along, folks. Bye.